Hello everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. So back to me again, Dheva here, and I'm gonna continue reading the on how to start your own religion. We're continuing with the step two today, and the step is choose your faith. Anyway, without further ado, let's get to reading. We all must have faith in something. Without faith, there is no hope. Non-religious people breathe brittle at the word faith, but having faith is the inevitable. Evidence and science are based on past experience. Hope is based on the future experience, and you must rely on some degree of faith that something will occur again in the future. You pay your mortgage because you have faith money is real and credit is real and a bank taking all your stuff is real. Tell your kids to leave home because you have faith in them that their education is important, that it will lead them to becoming happier, healthier adults. You have faith that happiness exists and is possible. You have faith that living longer is worth it. So you strive to stay safe and healthy. You have faith that love matters, that your job matters, and that any of this matters. So there's no such thing as atheist. Well, sort of. Depends on what you mean by atheist. My point is that we must believe all on faith that something is important, even if you are nihilist or you believe it on faith than anything else. So in the end, it's all faith. Then the important question is, what is faith? Like in what? We do choose to, what faith do we choose to believe? Whatever our feeling brain adopts at the highest value is this tippy top of our value hierarchy becomes the lens through which we interpret all other values. Let's call it highest value of God. But some people, God's value is money. These people view all other things, family, love, prestige, politics, through the prism of money. Their family will love them only if they make enough money. They will be respected if they only have money. All conflict, frustration, jealousy, anxiety, everything boils down to money. Other people got value is money. If you all other through the prism of love, they are against conflict in all its form. They're against anything that separates or divides other. Obviously, many people adopt Jesus Christ or Muhammad or the Buddha as their God value. They interpret everything they experience through the prism of the spiritual leader speaking. Some people's God value is themselves, or rather their own pleasure and empowerment. This is narcissism, the religion of self-aggrandizement. These people place their faith in their own security and deservedness. Other people's God's value is another person. This is often called codependence. These people derive all hope from their connection with other individuals and sacrifice themselves to their own interest for that individual. They then base all their behavior, decision, and belief on what they think will please that other person, their own literal God. This typically leads to a really critical after all, the narcissist God values himself, and the codependent God values fixing and saving the narcissist. So it kind of works out in a really sick and tough way, but it's not real. All religion must start with a faith-based God value. It doesn't matter what it is. Worshipping cat, believing in lower taxes, never letting your kids leave the whole house, whatever it is. It's a faith-based value that this one thing will produce the best virtual reality, and therefore give you the most hope when we then organize our life and all other values around that value. We look for activities that enact that faith, ideas that support it, and most important, communities that share it. It's around, and some of the more scientifically minded readers start raising their hands and pointing out that there are distinct facts and there is ample evidence that the method of fact exists. And we don't need to have faith to know that these some things are real. Fair enough, but here's the thing about evidence. It seems nothing. Evidence belongs in the thinking brain, whereas values decided by the feeling brain, you cannot verify values. They are, by definition, subjective and arbitrary. Therefore, you can argue about the fact that you know in the face, but ultimately, it doesn't matter. People interpret the significance of their experience through their parallel. If a meteorite hits a town and killed half the people, the uber traditional religious people would look at the event and say that it happened because the town was full of sinners. The atheists would look at it and say it was a proof there is no God, another faith-based belief, by the way. As how could a benevolent arm of the let such an awful thing happen? Hedonists would look at it and decide it was even more than party. We could all die at any moment. And a capitalist would look at it and start thinking about how to invest material and technology. Evidence serves the interest of the country, not the other way around. The only loophole into this arrangement is where evidence itself becomes God value. The religion built around the worship of evidence is more commonly known as science, and arguably, the best thing we've ever done as a species. But we'll get to science and its ramification in the next chapter. My point is that all values are faith-based belief, therefore all hope and therefore all religions are also faith based on faith. Faith that something can be important and valuable to and right, despite the fact that there will be never be a way to verify it all beyond doubt. For our purposes, I value three types of religions, each type based on different God value. The first value is spiritual religions. Spiritual religions draw hope from supernatural belief or belief in things that exist outside the physical or material world. These religions look for a better future outside this world and this life. Christianity, Islam, Judaism, animism, and Greek mythology are examples of spiritual religion. Ideological religion. Ideologians, ideological religions draw hopes from the natural world. They look for salvation and growth and development based belief regarding this world and this life. Example including capitalism, communism, environmentalism, liberalism, fascism, and libertarianism. And the last one is interpersonal religions. Interpersonal religions draw hope from other people in our life. Example of impersonal religion include romantic love, children, sport heroes, political leaders, and celebrities. Spiritual religions are high risk, high reward. They require by far the most skill and charisma to get going, but they also pay the most in terms of follower and loyalty and benefits. I mean, have you seen fashion? Holy moly! And if you build one really well, it'll last way after you die. Ideological religions play the religion formation game on normal difficulty. This religion takes a lot of work and effort to create, but they're fairly common. But because they're so common, they run into a lot of competition for people's hope. They are often described as cultural trends and internet and indeed, few of them survive more than a few years or decades. Only the best last through couple of multiple centuries. And finally, the last one, the interpersonal religion, are playing the religion formation game on easy mode because interpersonal religions are common as people themselves. Pretty much all of us at some point in our life deeply surrender ourselves to another individual. The interpersonal religion is sometimes experienced and acknowledged as naive, total love, and it's type of crap that you have suffered through before you can even grow out of it. That's not with spiritual religions. They have the highest stakes and arguably most important religions in human history. From the pagan and animalistic ritual of early human culture to the pagan of God of antiquity to the grandiose of monastic religions that still exist today. The majority of human history has been dominated by the belief in supernatural forces, and most important, the hope that certain action and belief in this life lead to reward and improvement in the next life. This preoccupation with the next life development because of most human history. Everything was completely empty, and 99% of the population have no hope of material and physical improvement in their lives. If you think you are bad today, just think about the plagues that wipe out a third of the population of an entire continent, or the wars that involve selling tens of thousands of children to slavery effects. Things were so bad in the old days that the only way to keep everyone sane was by promising them hope in the afterlife. Old school religion held the fabric of society together because it gave give masses a guarantee that their suffering was meaningful, that God was watching, that they would be duly rewarded. In case you haven't noticed, spiritual religions are incredibly resilient. They last hundreds, if not thousands of years. This is because supernatural belief can never be proven or disproven. Therefore, once a supernatural belief gets lodged into someone's body, it's nearly impossible to dislodge it. Spiritual religion are too powerful because they often encourage hope through death, which has nice side effect, making a lot of people willing to die for their unbearable belief. Hard to compete with that. Really. Next one, ideological religion. Ideological religions can generate hope by constructing network of belief that certain action will produce better outcomes in this life, only if they are adopted by population at large. Ideologies are usually ism, libertarianism, nationalism, materialism, racism, sexism, paganism, communism, capitalism, socialism, fascism, nationalism, capitalism, etc. Unlike spiritual religions, ideologies are variable to varying degrees. You can theoretically test to see whether a central bank makes a financial system more or less stable, whether a democracy makes a society fairer, whether education makes a lot of people another piece less than often. But at a certain point, most ideologies still rely on faith. There are two reasons for this. The first is that some things are incredibly difficult, if not impossible. That's the first point. The other is that a lot of ideology relies on everyone in society having a faith in the same system. For instance, you can scientifically prove that money is intrinsically valuable, but we all believe it is, so it is. You also can prove that nationalism is a real thing, or even most ethnicities exist. These are all socially constructed beliefs that we all bought into and cannot faith. The problem with evidence and ideologies is that humans have a tendency to have to take a little bit of evidence and run with it, generalizing a couple of simple ideas to the entire population and the planet. This is our human narcissism at work. Uh, our need to invent our self-importance. Our feeling brain run on mock. So even though ideologies are subject to evidence and verification, we're not exactly good at verifying them. Humanity is so vast and complex that our brain have trouble taking it all in. There are too many variables. So our thinking very inevitably take the shortcuts to maintain some otherwise still crappy belief that ideologies such as racism or sexism persist due to ignorance far more than malice. And people hold to those bad ideologies because sadly they offer their adherent some degree of hope. Ideologies are difficult to start. They are far more common than spiritual religions. All you have to do is find some reasonable standing explanation for why everything is like this, then exploit that across the wide population in a way that gives people some hope. And voila, you have yourself an ideological religion. If you've been alive for more than 20 years, you sure this happened a few times by now. In my lifetime alone, there have been movement in favor of LGBTQ rights, stem cell research, decriminalizing drug use. In fact, a lot of what everyone is losing their crap about today is the fact that traditionalist, nationalist, populist ideologies are winning political war across much of the world. And these ideologies are seeking to dismantle such things as accomplished by neoliberal, globalist, feminist, and environmentalist ideology of the late 20th century. Excuse me. So, and last one is interpersonal religion. Every Sunday, millions of people come together to set an empty green field. The field was has a white line fence on it. Excuse me. Sorry, I just ate with my lunch. It's built of white, the big palm white line fence on it. Millions of people have all agreed to believe on faith that this line means something important, that dozens of strong men or women brought to the field. Line of around pieces of leather, depending on where this piece of leather goes and where one group of people will cheer and the other group will really get upset. Sport are a form of religion. They are arbitrary value system designed to give people hope. Kick the ball here, you're a hero. Kick the ball there, you're a loser. Sport defies some individual and demonize others. That William is the best basketball player ever, and therefore, according to some, an American hero, an icon, a role model, other athletes are demonized for coming up short, for wasting their talent, for betraying their follower. Yep, there is an even grander explanation of interpersonal religion that sport, politics across the world. We come together through a similar set of values and decide to bestow authority, leadership, and virtue to a small number of people, like lions on football field. Political systems are entirely made up. The position power exists due to only the fate of the population, and whether it's democracy or dictatorship. The result of this is the same. A small group of leader is idolized and exalted or demonized in the social consequences. Interpersonal religion give us hope that another human being will bring us salvation and happiness. That one individual in our group of individuals is superior to all others. Interpersonal religion are sometimes combined with supernatural beliefs and ideological beliefs, resulting in pariah, martyrs, heroes, and saints. Many of our interpersonal religion beliefs develop our leaders, a charismatic president or celebrity who seem to understand everything we go through at kind of first level of the God really in our lives. And much of what we deem right or wrong is filtered to what is good and bad for our real leader. In general, it's a low level kind of religion. Fans of Will Smith or Katy Perry or Elon Musk must follow everything that person does. Hang on every word he or she says. And some perceive him or her as a blessed or righteous in some way. The worship of that figures gives the fans hope of a better future, even if it is the form of something that as simple as future film, song, or invention. But the most important interpersonal religion are our familial and romantic relationships. The belief and emotion involved in these relationships are evolutionary in nature, but they are faith-based all same. Each family is its own mini church, and a group of people who on faith believe that being part of the group will give their life meaning, hope, and salvation. Romantic love, of course, can be a quasi-spiritual experience. We seem to lose ourselves in someone we have fallen for, spinning all sort of narrative about the cosmic significance of the relationship. For the better of worse, modern civilization has largely alienated us from the small interpersonal religion and tribes that and replace them with large nationalist and internationalist ideological religions. This is the good news for you and me, fellow religion builder, as we don't have as many intimate bonds to cut through that our follower emotionally attached to us. Because as we all say, religion is all about emotional attachment. And the best way to build this attachment is to get people to stop thinking critically. Wow, pretty. Look, actually, Dr. Agri, with the uh, I don't think this with when he explained basically everything people put as the most important value this day. Like God is the most valuable person, most valuable thing here because God created all and ideological, just following what other people believe at the moment, and interpersonal, which is believing in someone else as their God. Pretty interesting, I'd say. And kind of help us if you want with our own religions. Well, that's all for today. Thanks all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Whoosh. Wow.